On the Eastern Front during World War II, experience wasn't just helpful, it was the difference between life and death. But for a veteran German tank commander like Otto Carius, his biggest threat wasn't always an enemy tank. Sometimes it was his own superior. Today we're jumping into his memoirs to tell a pretty incredible story about a clash between hard-won battlefield knowledge and some really dangerous incompetence from high command.
And right away, Carius just puts his finger on the problem. The new commander, well, he thinks he's a military genius, but he's the kind of guy who won't even listen to his own experts, his own operations officer. Now, this isn't just about being arrogant. On the front lines, an officer who refuses to listen is how you get your soldiers killed. Simple as that.
So you can probably guess what happens next. This whole dynamic of arrogance versus experience, it just blows up in their very first strategy session. And it leads to a disagreement that's going to have some serious consequences. So check this out. We're looking at two completely different versions of reality here. Carius, on one hand, he's got actual intelligence, captured maps, prisoner interrogations, and it all points to one thing. The Russians are planning to encircle the city of Dunburg. But the commander, his plan is based on, well, nothing but his own gut feeling. He just dismisses all the evidence and orders his forces to get ready for an attack from a totally different direction, leaving the real threat completely exposed.
And surprise, surprise, it doesn't take very long for the commander's little fantasy to collide with cold, hard reality. That very night, in the pitch dark, Carius has no choice but to trust his own gut when the enemy shows up, exactly where he said they would.
So, with the sound of Russian voices nearby, Carius has to deal with his first problem, just waking his guys up. And this is no easy task. These men are so exhausted after days of non-stop fighting that they're basically comatose. You couldn't shout them awake, you had to physically shake them. It's just a raw look at the human cost of all this, where even sleep can become a liability. Okay, this is where Carius's battlefield genius really shines. He orders a tactic that sounds completely backward. See how the tanks are set up? Their rears are facing the river and their main guns are pointed backward over the engine deck. Now, a Tiger tank's armor is weakest in the back, and turning a 57-ton beast is super slow and dangerous under fire. But this setup? It's brilliant. It means they can retreat by simply driving forward, protecting their weakest point while getting away fast.
So when the attack comes, they don't just fight back, they literally reshape the battlefield. First, a huge barrage from every tank to stun the advancing Russians. And then, this is the clever part, they use tracer rounds to set the village houses on fire. It creates this terrifying but incredibly effective source of light in the total darkness. Now they can actually see their enemy.
And in the middle of all that chaos, his gunner uses the muzzle flashes from the enemy T-34 as a target, and boom, third shot, and it's over. The immediate threat is gone, and Carius has just proven, in the most lethal way possible, that his commander's entire strategy was completely, dangerously wrong.
So that immediate firefight is over. But when the sun comes up, the full, almost comical scale of the commander's blunder is on full display for everyone to see.
I mean, just look at this. This is what the commander ordered. The division's most powerful assets, Tiger tanks, assault guns, you name it. They're all just parked along a road, completely useless, waiting for an attack from the south that was never going to happen. And all the while, the real enemy force is gathering in the northeast, exactly where Carius warned they'd be.
To make this whole thing even more ridiculous, the only action these guys see is the brief appearance of a couple of propagandists from headquarters. Carius notes, pretty sarcastically, that a single mortar round lands nearby and they just vanish. It's a funny little moment that perfectly shows the huge gap between the reality on the front lines and the stories being told back at HQ.
But oh no, the commander isn't done yet. His next order is going to take this from a simple disagreement to a full-blown life-or-death crisis. And it's going to force Carius to make an absolutely impossible choice.
So, the commander issues a new order, a general retreat. Sounds reasonable, right? Wrong. Here's the fatal flaw in his plan. He's also told engineers to get every single bridge on the retreat path ready for demolition. For the massive Tiger tanks, which can't cross rivers without bridges, this isn't a retreat, it's a death trap. The second those bridges go up, they're stranded, completely cut off. Seriously, put yourself in his shoes for a second. You know for a fact that your commander's plan is going to get you and all your men trapped and probably killed. You've tried to warn him, but he just won't listen. So what do? Do you follow orders and head towards certain destruction, or do you take matters into your own hands?
While Carius made his choice, in his own words, "At that point, I lost my patience." And with that, he commits a massive act of insubordination.
He grabs 4 of his Tiger tanks, and, completely against orders, he drives them to block the highway where he knows the real Russian attack is about to hit, hoping he can hold them off long enough to save the rest of the army.
So why would he do that? Why risk a court-martial? Or even worse? In his memoirs, Carius gives us his rationale, and it explains not just this one act of defiance, but why he was even still fighting at all at this point in the war.
For him, it was pretty complex. He wasn't fighting for some big political idea anymore. He was fighting for the guys around him, and for the civilians back home. His main goal here was to stop a panicked retreat, which would lead to a total disaster with way more casualties and prisoners. By breaking the rules, he was hoping to hold the line just long enough for an orderly withdrawal, to save the rest of the army from their own commander's mistake.
This whole story really forces us to think about one of the oldest dilemmas in any army. Carius clearly committed insubordination, but he did it to save his men from what he saw as certain death. And it leaves us with a really tough question, one with no easy answer. When does a soldier's duty to protect their comrades become more important than their duty to follow